to Yoga Within's YouTube channel. My name is Candace and this is Realignment Yoga. So today, for props today, we're going to use a strap, something that we can have a loop in it, and then we're going to use these to stand on today, so you could use a block or something that you can make a wedge with, and then a chair or something that you could put your legs up on. So we're going to start in static back position, as we always do. Making your way down onto your back with your legs up onto your chair or your ottoman. Making sure that your hips are bent at 90 degrees, your knees are bent at 90 degrees, and that the low back feels comfortable. So if your low back feels like it's already flattened right to the ground and it feels uncomfortable with your neck, then you might want to get a towel or a pillow to put underneath your neck. So the towel then would go sort of in the arch of your neck, and same, it might feel good to have something like a small towel wrapped up in the arch of your low back. So just settling into this position, making sure that your feet are in line with your knees, so there should be a space in between your feet, and that your knees are in line with your hip bones. So just settling into this relaxing position, trying to let everything go, letting your feet and legs be relaxed, and your knees are relaxed. Your thighs are relaxed, so that whole lower body feeling like it's being supported by your chair. And then allowing the stomach to relax. Try not to have any tension in the stomach, but as you breathe, allow that stomach just to rise and fall. So allowing the breath to be more into the abdominal area, so it's more into diaphragmatic breathing in the middle here as opposed to up in the chest. Making sure that your shoulders are relaxed so that they're not creeping up towards your ears. Letting go of any tension in your jaw. So sometimes it helps just to keep your teeth a little bit apart, and then allow the tongue to drop down from the roof of the mouth to relax. Letting your eyes relax. So if it's comfortable for you, you can close your eyes, and if that's not comfortable, then just gaze softly up towards the ceiling. Take a moment to notice how the low back feels. So over these next few minutes, we're going to try to let that low back relax and settle a little bit towards the floor. And then just take a moment to notice how the whole upper body feels on the floor, whether it feels like things are even on the floor, or whether it feels like there's some discrepancy from side to side. So you're just lying here relaxing. Making sure you're breathing. Just notice how your body feels. And as you're lying there, just keep noticing on whether things feel like you're settling out or not. Just staying in the same position. So today we're going to tackle exercises that can sometimes help with issues with feet. So feet and ankles. So foot dysfunction causes things like bunions, hammer toes, plantar fasciitis. So all those things that make it so that our feet aren't happy are often a result of things that are happening in other parts of the body. So the exercise that we're doing tackles this foot dysfunction, and sometimes you can get relief from those things, from the bunions and hammer toes. So take one more breath here. And then you're going to take your hands, you're going to clasp them in front of your chest here, and you're going to take your hands and go back behind you. So we're going to do this for 10 times. You want to make sure that your elbows stay straight, so don't let your elbows bend to touch the floor. You want to make sure that your ribs don't come up off the floor so that there isn't a big arch in the back as your hands will go overhead, so trying to keep that down. Do one more here, and then keeping the hands up, pointing towards the center. Now you're going to pull those arms from side to side. So as you pull over to the right, the left shoulder lifts, and as you pull to the left, the right shoulder lifts. So we're trying to get some movement into the upper back here. Some movement through the shoulders. Again, there's no destination on how far we have to go on this. Let's do one more each way. And then bring your hands back to center and take those arms overhead. So let's do 10 of these for 2. Make sure you're breathing for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bring the hands back to center, and now it's pulling from side to side, so pulling side to side. So for 2 and 3 each way, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, one more each way. Hands come back to center. Last time for the pullovers. So change your fingers. So take your fingers and move them one finger down, and now take those hands back overhead, trying to keep the elbows straight for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, don't let those ribs pop, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now pull that side to side again for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. Hands back to center. Move down. You can take your legs off your block or your chair, and you want to grab your strap. Make sure there's a loop in it, and just come back down to lying. So you're lying on the floor, knees are bent, foot soles are on the floor, and you want your feet, your knees, and your hip bones to be in line. So there's a little bit of space between your feet, and then you just want to try to feel like the outsides of your feet are straight, so it's going to feel like it's a little bit pigeon-toed. So we're going to squeeze bum cheeks together. We're going to do gluteal contractions. I'm going to do 20 of them. So you're squeezing for 1, 2, don't use your stomach, 3, 4, and don't use your legs, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Take your strap, the loop, and you're going to take that loop, and you're going to put it around your arms here. And so the strap is around my arms, and it is just above the elbow. Keeping my arms here, I'm going to push into the strap, so it's just a push and release, push and release, push and release, So we're going to do that for 5 more. 4, don't use your stomach. 3, 2, and 1. Good. This could come down, strap could come off. Squeeze those bum cheeks together, squeeze for 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice if they fire at the same time. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Notice if they fire with equal strength. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Strap goes around your elbows again. We're going to do those elbow abductions. I'm just going to get up and show you. So I'm here, and then my strap is here, and I'm pushing with my elbows into the strap. So coming down here, pushing in, we're going to do 10 of them for 1, 2, don't use your stomach, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Arms come down. Let's do the gluteal contractions, squeezing for 20 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Last time for the elbow abductions, strap around the arms, pushing into the strap with your arms, pushing for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So taking the strap, you can put that just off to the side. Straighten out your right leg. So your right leg is straight, the foot is flexed as if you're standing on it, and then the left leg is going to come up towards your chest. You're going to grab in behind the knee, and if that doesn't feel comfortable, then just use your strap, wrap it around and hold it. So you want your shoulders to be relaxing towards the floor, and this shin tries to be perpendicular to the floor. We're going to do foot circles. So take your foot and circle in one way. So you're going to do 30 circles. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Now change directions. The foot goes the other way. So you're circling the other way for 30 times. So you want to make sure when you're doing this that the shin isn't moving a lot. It is just the foot going around in the circle. So the circling is coming from the ankle, not coming from your knee. And then that right leg remains straight with the foot flexed, so it's a working leg. So once you've done your 30 circles in this direction, you're going to stop, and then you're going to point and flex for 22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's change the other foot. So now the left leg is straight, that left foot is flexed, right knee comes in towards your chest, you're grabbing in behind the knee or using your strap. Shin is parallel to the floor, take that right foot, start drawing your little circles for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Change directions for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 20 pointed flexes for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Come down, bring your foot soles together, knees drop out to the side. We call this frog here. I'm just going to hang out here for a little bit. So you want to notice if your hips like this, if it feels like it's not really comfortable for you, you could take your blocks and sort of wedge them underneath here to give us support. But if it really bothers your hips, then maybe you just lie with your knees bent. Or you might do it for maybe not as long. So the foot circles and the pointed flexes are the first exercise that really targets foot issues. So you might notice in that one that you get burning happening in the sort of lower shin area, and that is quite natural. That happens for most people. So it helps that the foot circles helps with balance, and then just getting the ankle to be a little bit more mobile. And hopefully it maybe even helps us walk a little bit better. I'm just noticing how that relaxation, so this position helps put pelvis back into a neutral position, opens up the hips. For many people, it's a lovely position and they love this. For me, it's I'm getting to love it better because I do it more, but it's not necessarily particularly super comfortable for me. Take one more breath here, and then bring your legs back up to center. Grab your strap again. So it doesn't need a loop in that strap, but you're going to take, you're going to have both knees bent. We're going to start with the left foot. You're going to put your strap underneath the ball of the foot on the left foot, and then you're pulling those toes towards you. My thighs are parallel on this, so it's not, doesn't come way up here. You keep it here. Try to get your knee so that it's perfectly straight, and the thigh is a little bit tight on this. So tight thigh, knee is straight. So you should be feeling a really nice calf stretch in this position, and you're just breathing. So this is a calf stretch, and then we'll do a hamstring stretch after this. This is sort of the second exercise that's really good to help with foot dysfunction. So leave everything where it is, but now you're going to take your foot and make little tiny rainbows back and forth. So my foot is going like this, which allows internal, external rotation coming right from the hip. So just in and out. Good. And then bring that down and switch over to the other side. So the strap now goes underneath the underneath the ball of the foot of the right foot. That left knee stays bent, and then you're lowering that the right leg down so that the thighs are parallel. I'm pulling my foot towards my head. My shoulders are relaxed, but my thigh is tightened a little bit. Hanging out here, noticing how the calf stretch feels on this side. Just making sure you're breathing. Take one more breath in this calf stretch, and then internal, external rotation again. So little tiny rainbow pattern with the foot gets your whole leg rotating internal and external right from the hip. One more each way, and then lower that down. Keeping your knees bent, take the strap and now put it underneath the arch of that left foot. So now this is a hamstring stretch. So you're going to bring that foot towards you to try to get a stretch happening in the back of that leg. So again, your right knee can stay bent, and you might feel your low back flattening to the floor on this, and that's fine. And you're looking for a nice stretch down the back of that leg. Again, it doesn't have to be a super big stretch. You just want it to feel like a nice stretch. So there shouldn't be any shaking, anything like that. You want to try to keep that knee straight too, which might mean that you can't go as far back behind you as you think you should. Straight knee more important than how far this goes back behind you. Good, so you got the strap in both hands, so now we're just going to rainbow the whole leg. So it goes out to the side, and then maybe it comes across a little bit. So trying to get some range of motion happening in the hip. As your hip goes across to the side or across the middle, then don't let that left hip lift up a lot. Just take it through whatever range of motion you have. And if you've had a hip replacement and know you shouldn't cross midline, then don't let that cross midline. Good. Bring that down. Switch on the other side. So the strap goes underneath the arch of the right foot now, and we'll start with the hamstring stretch. So you're just bringing that leg however far forward it can, or towards your head. Again, keeping the knee straight, more important than how close to your head your foot gets. And you're just breathing. And really notice the difference from side to side, whether there's a big difference into how how far each leg can come up. Take one more breath here. And now rainbow the whole leg. So the leg comes across the midline and then out to the side. Making sure you're breathing. And again, just taking it into whatever range of motion you have. Trying not to let this hip, left hip lift up as you go out to the right. Do one more each way. And then bring that down. Then come on to hands and knees. Make sure that your hands are stacked underneath your shoulders and your knees are stacked underneath your hips. Let's do some cats and dogs. So start with the tail. So the tail tucks under, the low back rounds, the shoulder blades come apart, and the head drops. You're an angry cat. And now lift up that tailbone, the belly drops, the shoulder blades squeeze together, the head comes up. You're a happy dog. So just making sure you're breathing as you go through the angry cat and the happy dog. And making sure that the motion starts with the tail for both the angry cat and the happy dog. So the tail goes first, and then the head follows, and the head is the last to come up. Do one more angry cat. One more happy dog. Actually, let's end with an angry cat just to offset that back bend. And then come back to a neutral spine. You're going to tuck your toes under. We're going into downward dog, and if you don't like downward dog on your hands and knees, then you can do it against the wall. If you're on your hands and knees, you're going to tuck your toes under. You're going to lift up your knees a little bit. You're going to push your bum back towards your heels, and then straighten your legs into downward dog. So just feeling a nice stretch here, making sure you're breathing. You can walk out this downward facing dog if you like. Taking one more breath here. And then coming back down onto your hands and knees. So this time, take your left leg and take it out to the side. So your leg is out to the side, the foot is pointing forward. And we're going to do cats and dogs in this position. So it's going to feel quite different, and your range of motion might not be as much as you had, and that's fine. So you're just going to take it into whatever range of motion you have. So again, start with the tail tucks under, the low back rounds, the shoulder blades come apart, the head drops, and then the tail lifts, the belly drops, the shoulder blades squeeze together, and the head comes up. So moving back and forth in this cats and dog with your leg out. Noticing how that feels. do one more. And then finishing up in happy dog. Bring your spine back to a neutral position. And now you're just going to push your bum back towards your heels. It should be a little bit of a stretch happening in through the insides of the legs. Again, you want your stretch to be nice and comfortable, making sure you're breathing. And then come back to center. And let's go out to the other side. So now the right leg comes out to the side. Cats and dogs on this way. So now start with the angry cat, tail tucks, low back round, shoulder blades come apart, head drops, and then into happy dog, tail lifts coming up. So moving through this range of motion on the other side. As always, noticing if there's a big difference from side to side. One more angry cat. One more happy dog. Bring the spine back to a neutral position and then push back. A little bit of stretch going in through the inner thigh. Come back to center. This down. And it might feel good just to push back here into a child's pose. Again, you can have your fists stacked or you can have your chin resting on your hands. So just finding a position that feels relaxing for you. If this doesn't feel good for your hips, then often it helps to widen your knees, letting your belly drop through. Take one more breath here and then come back up onto all fours. So on all fours, again, you're making sure that everything is stacked, wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. Take your left foot back and put it onto the ground. So there's lots of options for this. It's a bit of a balance pose. So we're here starting here, and then we're reaching with the right hand. So this might be where you stay on this. If this is feeling super easy, then maybe you can lift that back foot. And you're breathing and holding this. Coming down and switching over to the other side. So now that right foot goes back, the left arm lifts forward, and then if you're feeling balanced, maybe you can lift up that right leg and holding and breathing. Don't hold your breath. Bring everything down, switch back over to the other side. Opposite hand, opposite leg lifts. And holding. If this is too much, then drop that back foot down to the ground. Bring everything down. Switch to the other side. Breathe. So we've got a little bit of work happening in the core on this as well. Bring that down. Take it up and hold. Holding and breathing. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it down. And switching to the other side, lifting and holding. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do that one more time each side. If I'm holding too long, then you make it whatever count is good for you today. One more breath, taking it down last time, switching this here, making sure you're breathing, bringing that down, and then pushing back into child's pose again. Letting low back release on anything that's happened with this. Take one more breath, and then come back up onto all fours. We're going into a position called static extension. You're going to, hips are underneath, knees are underneath your hips, hands are underneath your shoulders. So we're here in this all fours position again. You take your hands, you're going to walk them about one hand length forward. So now my shoulders are back behind my hands. I'm going to take my shoulders and bring them up and put them over top of my hands. And now I'm going to let that low back drop. Those shoulder blades are going to drop together and squeeze. And I'm going to let my head hang. We're going to hang out here for a minute. So make sure you're breathing. If this hurts your low back, then take your bum, you're going to push it a little bit more back towards your heels until there's no pain. Just holding and breathing. This is, I think it's the third exercise now that can help with foot dysfunction. You got about 20 more seconds in this position. Again, if this feels too long for whatever reason, then just go back into child's pose and rest there. Take one more breath here, and then just push back into child's pose. Take one more breath here, and then come back and come to a seated position. So take your, coming into this, it's called a Diva Position. So right knee is bent, and then left leg goes sort of back behind you, and this knee is touching my feet. My hands are behind me. I'm going to roll those hips forward to bring some nice extension into the back. And I'm just hanging out here and noticing how this feels. So hands can go back as far as it feels comfortable for you, but just make sure that the pelvis rolls forward. So we're looking here to bring some nice extension into the body. From here, then you're going to try to lift that left knee a little bit up and down on this. And you might not have very much of a lift on this, and that's okay. So we're trying to get the legs to work on this, or the hip flexors to work on this. Do one more. Good, and then switch over to the other side. Now the right leg goes back behind you. That left foot touches. Hands are behind me. I'm rolling those hips forward to open them up. Noticing how this feels. Again, as always, notice the difference from side to side on this. Does it feel different for your hips? And now lift that right leg a little bit up and down. Does it feel different in your ability to lift that leg? And if you can't lift it at all, then just stay there and just ask it to lift. Someday it might lift. Do one more. Okay. And then let's just come up to a standing position. Good. Let's go over to the wall to do some air bench. So walking your feet out, coming down into this seated position here. The low back presses into the wall. You have weight onto your heels, so heels more so than the toes, and coming down into a position where your knees don't hurt. So if your knees hurt, then you're going to come up into a position until they don't hurt, and that's where you're going to stay. So we're going to try to stay here for 2 minutes, and if 2 minutes feels too long, then you'll do less. Just hanging out here. So this is the, what is it? I think it's the 5th position now, or the 5th exercise that helps with foot dysfunction. So you might think, so we did the static extension position where we were on all fours and let sort of everything, the low back sag, and then we're doing this one. You might think, well, that has nothing to do with your feet. But everything's connected, and so sometimes it's perhaps the position of our pelvis that is affecting our feet dysfunction. And so everything that we do to help to straighten our body will help sort of all parts of it. So you're more than halfway done. We only have about 40 more seconds left in this. Just noticing how this feels. So again, the series of exercises that we've done here for foot dysfunction come out of Peter Goskew's book called Pain Free. It is one of my go-to books. And so, say when I've got issues with my low back, then I do the low back exercises. I do have a bit of bunions, and so if they feel like they're bothering me, then I do this series of feet exercises. So take one more breath here. You're going to push up into this, walk around a little bit, shake things out, and then you're going to come back to the wall. So let's take our blocks. We're doing wall drop. So you can take your blocks, you're going to put them so that when you stand on them, your heels drop towards the floor. So this is a big calf stretch. I'm just hanging out here. I'm going to hang out here for about 5 minutes. So it's a big calf stretch. This is a position that we use to try to help straighten the whole body. So the lower body is working, and we've got the wall to help us be in a straight position. So you want to notice, do my hips feel like they're against the wall evenly? Does it feel like my shoulder blades are against the wall? And then my head just wants to be straight. So if you've got a real head forward position, then you don't want to try to force it back so that your head lifts up. You want to have maybe chin tucked a little bit and bring it back. So upper body is relaxed on this, lower body is working hard. And you're just breathing. You want to notice in this one, because your heels are almost touching the wall or just touching the wall. And you want to notice if both calves touch the wall. So right now, I've got one calf that touches and one calf that doesn't. Usually by the time I'm finished the 5 minutes, I'll have both calves touching the wall. Just making sure you're breathing and holding this. We try to do in most classes at least one exercise that tries to help straighten the body. And so this one and air bench both are really good for helping to take, especially disparity out of the hip area, maybe where one hip rotates a little bit forward. So this is often quite helpful. So while we are standing here in this position, we're going to do some elbow curls. So take your hands and place them, call this a golf grip. So the pads of the fingers go to the pads of the knuckles here. And then you're taking those knuckles up to your temples here. And we're taking the elbows in and out. So the upper body tries to stay against the wall as these elbows go in and out. The wrists are perfectly straight on this. And your elbows might or might not touch. So if I bend my wrist, then I can get my elbows to touch. But it's really about just taking the shoulders through this range of motion. Let's do 10 more of these. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Hands come down. Check. Now check your body, see if it's managed to straighten a little bit. So now my right calf is just starting to touch the wall. My body's starting to adjust to this position. I'm going to hold this for about 20 more seconds. Again, if this feels too much for you, then feel free to come out of it sooner, and then maybe you come back and join us, or maybe you've had enough. take one more breath here. Slowly come out of this. Walk around a little bit so that your legs feel a little bit normal. And then come to a standing position. So try to stand with your feet pelvis width apart and the outsides of the feet straight. So most of us have a tendency to have feet that sort of duck out. Try to get them straight. So it's going to feel like maybe it feels like you're a little bit pigeon-toed. So now just rock a little bit back and forth. So try to think about getting the weights into the heels, the ball of the foot, and the mounds of little toes. So it's sort of a triangle. And so you don't want all the weight to be forward on the fronts of the feet or on the back. You want it to be even. And so if you lifted your toes, that's sort of the point of reference where you'd want your weight to be. We don't want to lift our toes, you're going to put them back down. But try to keep the weight even, heels and on the balls of the feet even. So now breathe in, take your hands overhead. You're going to reach up and then over to one side. And then come back up, reaching up and over to the other side. Try not to let the shoulders come up. Just a nice side stretch. Coming up and then coming forward into a forward fold. And so it is quite fine to maybe widen your feet if you've got tight hamstrings. It's okay to have elbows on your knees, or you can come all the way down to the floor. It is more about getting a nice stretch onto the back side, as more about feeling that nice stretch rather than trying to see how far down you can go. If you've got low back issues, you're going to use your hands to walk your hands back up. If not, you just come up however you can. And then come back into that mountain pose. Check where the weight is. Breathe in, hands come up. And then over to one side. Coming up. And over to the other side. Coming up. And then folding forward into a forward fold. Making sure you're breathing. And then using your hands if low back is an issue to walk that all the way back up. And come to standing. Grab your chair and your strap. So just making sure that the chair or whatever you're sitting on allows your hips to be bent at 90 and your knees to be bent at 90 here, so here and here. I'm going to take your strap and you're going to place it around your knees so that it's above your knees. And then you're sitting up nice and tall. So make sure you've got an arch happening in the low back. You've got light pressure on your knees. You're not really pushing really hard into the strap, but just to keep the strap tight. And then you're going to lift up your heels. So you could lift up your heels by pushing onto your toes, and it's quite easy to do that. But I want you to try to lift up your heels just using the hip flexors. You also try not to use your stomach muscles. So just these muscles, these hip flexor muscles. So if you put your fingers into that hip crease, as you use your hip flexors to lift, you should feel sort of a rope-like thing pop up. We want that. If I'm using my toes to push up, those little ropes in the hip crease don't pop. So just using your hip flexors to lift up your legs, up and down. This can be quite hard. Not to use your stomach, not to use your feet, just to use those hip flexors. Do one more. And then take your hands, take them into that golf grip again, pads of fingers to the knuckles. Good, now take it up to here. So your thumbs are pointing forwards, the shoulder blades are squeezed together so the arms go back a little bit. You can just sort of see the arms out of that periphery vision, and you're going to take and do little tiny circles. So making sure you've got an arch in the low back, making sure your shoulder blades are squeezed together as you're taking little tiny circles here. Making sure you're breathing. And then you're going to stop. Take your hands, clasp in front of your chest. You're going to push out. And then take those hands up, overhead, into extension. So if shoulders are an issue, then maybe you just go here. But if shoulders aren't a problem, take it all the way up. Nice arch in the low back, making sure that the chest feels like it's nice and open and you're breathing. Taking one more breath here, coming all the way down. And now you're going to lift up those heels again. Trying to use those hip flexor muscles, right? Putting your fingers there, you can feel them working if you're doing this right. Try not to use your stomach, just trying to use the hip flexors. So those ab muscles often get involved when they don't need to be involved. We're trying to work those hip flexors, get them activated and working like they're supposed to work. Let's do a couple more. And now take your hands back into that golf grip. Hands go out to the side. Now take your thumbs and point them backwards. And now the circles go backwards. So little tiny arm circles, making sure you've got nice arch in that low back. You're sitting up nice and tall. Shoulder blades are slightly squeezing together, and you are breathing. Let's do a couple more of these. Then bring it down. Take your hands here, push this out, bring it back up for an overhead extension. And you're breathing. Don't let those shoulders creep up to your ears. Try to keep them down as you do this. Bring this down. And then last time, lifting up those heels. Trying to use those hip flexor muscles to lift this. And you are breathing. Do a couple more of these. Last one. Good, the strap can come off. Your chair can go off to the side. And you can come down into a lying position. So we're in lying position. Take your arm. If it's all right, arms go up overhead. And if it doesn't feel good for you to have your arms overhead, they can just be down by your side. You're going to take your legs and you're going to walk them over towards the right. Walking my legs over to the right. And then I'm going to walk my hands over to the right. So we are looking for a stretch down the left side. So it's like a banana stretch here. If you feel like you need more of a stretch, you might cross one foot over. And breathing. Walking your arms back to center. And your legs back to center, and then go to the other side. So now walk your legs over to the left, and your arms over to the left. So now it's a stretch down the right side. Taking one more breath here. Walk your arms back to center. And your legs back to center. Bring knees into chest. Give it a little bit of a hug. If you want, nose can come towards your knees. And then come back down. You're going to roll over onto your right side. So your knees come up towards your chest and your arms are out from your shoulders. If it feels like you need something under your head, then you can put a block or a pillow underneath your head. You're going to take your top arm, your left arm, you're going to reach it up towards the ceiling and then drop it back down behind you. This is an upper spinal twist. That right arm grabs that left knee to keep the knees from twisting. And then it might feel good to leave that left arm touching the floor. And so if you can't reach up straight out and get it to the floor, then to bring that hand down towards the hip. So I've got one hand resting on the floor I find this helps me more to concentrate on opening up the upper back than giving the shoulders a whole big stretch that they might or might not like. You're breathing, your head can turn away from the twist or towards the twist, or it can just look straight up. Just hanging out here, just making sure you're breathing. Taking one more breath here, bring that left hand back up and around, and then rolling over on to your left side. So I'm on my left side. My knees are tucked up towards the chest, my arms are straight out, and then I'm lifting up that top arm and dropping it back behind me. Left arm grabs a hold of my right knee. And I'm resting my hand on the floor so my upper back or my upper body can open up without it going into shoulders. So you just want to find a place where this feels like a nice comfortable stretch and nothing is straining. Just make sure you're breathing. This is one of my favorite stretches. I try to do this every day. Take one more breath and then come back out of it. Roll over onto your back. Knees are bent, foot soles are on the floor. Trying to get feet, knees, and hips, hip bones in alignment. And from here we're going to do pelvic tilts. So you're going to arch your low back, and then you're going to flatten your low back to the floor. So arching the low back and flattening the low back. So as I arch my low back, it feels like my feet sort of pull towards me. And then as I flatten the low back, they push away from me. So just going back and forth here. So the next time that low back hits the floor, and just bring it back to neutral. Staying in this bent knee position, take your right ankle and place it on top of your left knee. So you're going to gently push away that right knee from you without using your hands. This might be enough of a stretch for you, but if you feel like you need more, then that left knee or that left leg lifts. You want to try to have that shin parallel to the floor. So I'm trying to pull that left knee towards me as I gently push my right knee away from me. So there is a little bit of arch happening in the low back here. So don't let that low back flatten to the floor on this. So you're breathing. This again is a great stretch that I try to do every day. It does help take out disparity in the hips. Just make sure you're breathing. Taking one more breath here. Bring that left foot sole down towards the floor. Leave the right foot where it is. Turn the hands so that they face down to give you some support. And then you're going to drop that right foot towards the left side, coming all the way down. And if you can't reach all the way down, then it might feel good to put your blocks underneath that leg or that foot to give you some support. So now it's a twist going over towards the left side. And again, your head now can turn away from this twist or look up towards the ceiling. Just hanging out here and breathing. That right knee still tries to gently push away from you a little bit. Take one more breath here. Bring everything back up to center. The right foot goes down to the ground. And now the left ankle goes onto the right knee. That left knee gently pushes away from you without using your hands. This might be where you stay with this stretch, but if you feel like you need more, then that right knee comes in towards your chest. So I'm pulling that right knee in towards me while gently trying to push that left knee away from me. My shin is parallel to the floor. Palms can face up on this. Breathing, making sure you keep a nice arch happening in that low back. Take one more breath here. You're going to lower that right foot to the floor. Palms face down. And now that left foot drops down towards the right. And again, you just want to notice if your right leg and your left foot don't come to the floor on that right side, then maybe you put a block or a pillow underneath. I'm still trying to push that left knee a little bit away from me. And my head can go away from the twist or just look up towards the ceiling. Breathing. Take one more breath here. Bring everything back up to center. That left foot sole comes down onto the ground. We'll do just a few more of those pelvic tilts, so arching the low back, flattening the low back. Arching and flattening. Arching and flattening. So last time, flatten the low back to the floor. Bring it back to just a neutral spine, so there's a little bit of arch to the low back. Foot soles together. Knees drop out to the side again. And just noticing how this feels. Just try to remember if it feels any different from when we did this at the beginning of the class. Trying to bring that pelvis back into a neutral position. Take one more breath here. Bring both knees back up. Grabbing your chair. Put your legs back on, up to come back into static back to finish up the class. So just settling into this static back position, letting everything relax. So if it's comfortable, palms face up to the ceiling. You might feel like letting your eyes close, or you can leave them open and just gaze up at the ceiling. Just making sure that your feet and your legs are relaxed. Making sure that your feet, your knees, and your hip bones make a straight line. So we don't want the knees to be closer together than the hips, or the feet to be closer together. Allowing the stomach muscles to relax. Allowing the breathing to happen more around the abdominal area as opposed to the upper chest. Allowing the low back to relax towards the floor. Allowing those shoulders to relax. The arms and the hands feel relaxed. The neck is relaxed. Letting go of all the tension in your jaw. Your cheeks feel relaxed. Letting all the little muscles around your lips relax. Letting all the muscles around your eyes relax. The muscles in between your eyebrows are relaxed. That space is smooth. The forehead is smooth. Feeling all the worry lines on your face. Relax and let go. Focusing on your breath. So as you breathe in, feel your body expand. As you breathe out, allow it to settle. taking a few more breaths here. One more breath. Slowly just bring movement back into your body. You might feel good to wiggle your feet, toes, your hands. And then as you feel ready, making your way back up to a seated position. And doing this slowly, right? Letting your body to transition back to your day. As you're ready, coming up to a seated position, placing your hands at heart center, pausing for a moment to thank yourself for taking this time just for you today. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste.